Here's why you need to keep loving even when it's hurt you. My name is Amina, and I'm gonna walk you through a concept that I've learned over the last few years, that regardless of how many times my heart has been broken, regardless of the many times I've been burned, I always came back to an act of love and an act of loving. The fact of the matter is that love is a very difficult concept for most of us to grasp, whether it is entirely overwhelming or if it's simply just always out of reach for us. Everybody has a complicated relationship when it comes to love and being loved and feeling love. A lot of us, I think, are traumatized by just the way that society operates. Being a participant in the world we have today is entirely an abusive experience, so it kind of teaches us how to contract inwards and carry this hard outer casing that makes it very difficult for us to allow others to penetrate that exterior that we've built, that shield, right? So love then inevitably becomes distant and inaccessible. So before we start, I'm gonna do something that my old self probably would have laughed at me for, but because we're talking about love, I figured I would do my little heart chakra sound bowl so you guys can just take a moment to ground with me and open your hearts for a discussion that will hopefully be fruitful and change your mindset. So take a deep breath, let it out. Now let's get into it. Love. What is love? I think a lot of us have a different definition for what love is. The truth is that I don't think love is best defined with words. I think love is best defined by sensations and by the thoughts that cannot be verbalized. It's the memory you get when you eat a food that reminds you of your childhood, or it's the thought that traces your mind when you pass by an old location associated with a past friend or otherwise relationship. It's the peace you feel in the presence of those who make you feel like there is nothing left to be discovered in the universe. These are all different forms that we digest love, and that's why I wholeheartedly believe there's no reason to define love in a material stance, because it reduces the experience. But what does it mean when so many of us have closed our hearts to feeling love, to giving love? It's pretty obvious to tell that majority of the global population is very closed off and almost living in a state of fear, of a scarcity. We act on our worst impulses. There's a lot of anger and ego in this world being exemplified by our global powers, by the conflicts we see, by the genocides and everything else. Everything is interconnected, and I think it's very easy to tell what the problem is. Out of many, of course, to me seems that we've made it eternally difficult to access love. One of my favorite scientists, he's a quantum physicist, his name is Federico Fagin, and he went through an experience that called him to further discover what he believes to be a powerful theory in quantum mechanics. And the experience that catalyst was when he felt this outpour of love in his body. That was the experience that initiated his desire to learn more about the universe. So in that sense, we can realize that love is an expansive force that demands us to reckon with what lies beyond. When we talk about the concept of true love, a lot of people kind of fixate on the concept of a soulmate, and it's particularly intriguing to see that we externalize love into the form of a person, of a relationship. True love and soulmates is a motivator for a lot of people, even if they've gotten down on life, because it feels like a destination that somehow still exists. And it's easier for people to get going somewhere when they know there's somewhere to go to. You get on that destination without realizing that the destination itself didn't exist, and the object of your desire already exists within you. We've just lost the ability to channel that. I think humans used to be a conduit for love in its purest form. We've got, the greatest poets and mystics of, thousands of years ago who exemplified this. They had the understanding that there was much more than the material world, and the key to that level of comprehension was love. And that brings me back to Federico Fagin, the quantum physicist who made his recent theory on quantum mechanics due to his reconciliation with love being that ever-present force in our universe. With all that being said, why do I think you should continue to love even after you've been hurt, even after you've been betrayed and stepped on and ignored and abandoned, whatever else you've gone through? Well, it's because I feel as though love is the thread between every single experience in our life. Love is unique to consciousness. Now, I'm not going to say human consciousness because there's so much to be discovered, but I think consciousness is what makes love meaningful, and humans, we possess a great level of consciousness. So it would be a huge waste for us to throw away this great feeling that we can embody simply because of our fears and our doubts and our insecurities. I mean, you're throwing away the experience of a lifetime, the experience that could ascend you further into a greater realm of thinking. You don't have to believe in God or a higher power or spirituality even to understand that love is powerful. A lot of us, I think, feel that when we go through suffering, the only logical outcome is to continue to project that pain outwards. Hurt people hurt people. That's why we have that phrase. I think it's indicative of our society. That phrase is very telling of where we've gotten to as a society. It doesn't mean that it's irreparable. It doesn't mean that there's still not a way for you to rediscover that capacity of love inside of you, because it doesn't really matter what anyone else does to you. It matters only what you have decided your capacity is. We base our decisions off of what has been done to us and what others have done to us without realizing that we're allowing the darkest parts of other people, that which has hurt us, that which has dimmed our light, to become what defines us. We lose all sense of nuance. When people have hurt us, they were acting out of their worst impulses. And so for us to declare that love itself is meaningless and that the act of being kind and compassionate and empathetic, these are all different forms and extensions of love, is inherently worthless, is just diminishing our own capacity to be human. Because I'm sure the people who hurt you, they probably live in some sort of bliss of ignorance, but it's because that the way that they hurt you was a darker side of them. And when you decide to internalize that hurt and let it define the way that you act towards others, the way you act towards yourself, the way you act towards the environment around you, you're taking the worst parts of people and making it your entire identity. And that's when it becomes hard for us to love, to be loved, to feel love, to share that love. Because we've decided that the events that took place in our life that were deeply destructive to our sense of trust in the world meant that love itself didn't exist anymore. And that's a fair response. Of course, everybody gets traumatized and hurt and destroyed by the act of abuse and anything else that harms our inner world. But it's only hurting you when you decide that that pain is enough to take away the possibility of love. I want you to think about a time in your life where you felt that ever-expansive feeling of love that I mentioned. The notion that love is rare is odd to me because it can be found everywhere, and it is found everywhere. It just takes a little bit of a readjustment to your eyes, to the lens that you see the world through. I had to do that with myself. I had to realize that there was something tainted in my worldview that wasn't allowing me to perceive love. It's kind of like when we talk about the visible wavelength, right? We see the colors and they have different wavelengths, and our eyes have optic nerves that perceive these colors. Well, that's because our eyes have allowed us to perceive these colors. There's a framework in place that makes it accessible. Love is kind of similar. Love is a frequency that can only be resonated when we have the internal framework to process that and support that. But like I said, most people let their deepest pain destroy that framework, destroy the structure that upholds love in their life. And that's okay, that's human, but it's also important to address the fact that it's not the end. And that shouldn't be the end for you. You shouldn't give up on the possibility of accessing love just because somebody acted out of hatred towards you. The complete opposite of love. Or in a situation didn't go your way and you didn't feel loved in that moment. When we act out of our past, when we act out of the shadows that haunt us, the versions of ourselves and others that harmed us, we're only further perpetuating what has happened. So in that instance, that love was eradicated from your life and you felt completely worthless and hurt and alone, well, you're just repeating that same moment for years to come. And so you've made it a rule in your internal framework that love is not to exist in your life. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying this is just a side effect of trauma responses and the way the brain works and the way that our human body was kind of designed to survive. But I don't think we're in a place right now in the world or in our own inner psyche that we can afford the cost of a lifetime of detachment. I know loving hurts. I know there's a lot that is on the line when you love freely and openly. And the cost to abstaining from love is not equal. Ignoring and avoiding and ultimately destroying the idea of love in your mind is more costly than it is to engage with it. I think a lot of people can resonate with this idea. A lot of us do tend to externalize love, and if that's the way that you access it, that's okay. But I urge you to try to find ways to access that love metaphysically, beyond the material, beyond a person or a place. Because when you are able to access love without proof of what is seen, love becomes you. Love becomes something you emanate, you embody, just as you inhabit your own being. Love becomes one and the same with that. That takes a lot of work though, so I'm not gonna push that on you, but that's a goal for sure, because I've experienced life living this way for quite some time now, and it's given me a lot of peace. Despite all of that which has been going on in my life, all the chaos and the confusion, embodying and then further becoming love has allowed me to see past the illusions of our physical reality. Alright, so if that's not enough to convince you to love, comment down below and I'll respond to you individually and try to convince you further. You need to love. That's all. If you're interested in receiving one-on-one guidance, feel free to click link in my bio or the link down below. I have a freebie guide that's open to anyone who's interested in reading more about your physical reality. And if you want me to make a specific video talking about a specific philosophy, then comment down below and I will get back to you. Subscribe for more videos, like this video if you want more, and I really appreciate you watching and tuning in.